Hello, epic viewers from around the multiverse. Prepare to bask in unprecedented glory, because today I'm going to be revealing the top 5 hidden costs appertaining to buying stuff. So what do they encompass? What do they entail? Without further ado, without further delay, without further procrastination, allow me to demystify that inquiry right here, right now. The first hidden cost appertaining to hoarding items is the cost of debt financing. In other words, when you're paying for items with your credit card, you're accruing interest in perpetuity. You're being further submerged in debt. You're further drowning in debt. And the repercussions, the ramifications appertaining to being indebted are enormous. They're outrageously unfathomable, to say the least. They're ineffable, and it's quite agonizing and debilitating, to say the least. Interest accrues in perpetuity, and as it accrues, you become more indigent, more destitute, and more impoverished. And you may have to file for bankruptcy in the future if you can't afford to pay off what you procured. And you can wind up ultimately losing everything when you file for bankruptcy. So it's quite a bleak, dreary, depressing outcome, but it is what it is. So what's the second hidden cost, you may ask? Well, let me just reveal that answer to that inquiry right here, right now. The cost of housing items can be eminently lofty, to say the least. You may have to pay for a storage unit, which is quite tragic, to say the least. And if you cannot afford to pay your monthly storage unit fees, then you may have to relinquish everything against your own volition, and all your items will become liquidated in a heartbeat once you're locked out of your own storage unit. So it is what it is. Furthermore, if you want to upgrade your home so that you have a more spacious home, your homeowners association fees are going to increase, and your property tax rates are going to increase. So it's just ultimately unaffordable, to say the least. The third hidden cost is the cost of insuring items. Your annual homeowners insurance rate is going to increase as you insure more items. Therefore, your premiums are going to increase. Your deductibles are likely going to be significantly increased, and all of this is just relatively unaffordable. Homeowners insurance can be beneficial in case there's a disaster, so that you can get reimbursed in the event that your property becomes decimated and ravaged. But the monthly payments or the annual payments are just outside the parameters of most people's budgets, and they're apt to further amplify over time. So just be wary of the cost of insuring personal property. Is relatively unaffordable. Furthermore, you have massive opportunity costs associated with buying items. In other words, every time you buy items, you're forgoing the opportunity to foster brand growth, you're forgoing the opportunity to build your repertoire, you're forgoing the opportunity to develop new profound skills that could be of vital use to you in the pending future, especially if you want to grow your own brands to unprecedented heights. So, in other words, when you're buying items, when you're hoarding items, when you're collecting items, you're forgoing the opportunity to work. Your time is sacrosanct and invaluable and non-replenishable, so just be wary of that. The fifth cost is the cost of living in clutter. When you're overwhelmed with stuff, it impedes you. You need to maintain it, you need to organize it. You're encumbered by your items, and causes you to experience unprecedented levels of stress, to say the least, which ultimately shortens your telomeres and unravels your chromosomes and wreaks havoc against your DNA. So you don't want your telomeres to be truncated, you don't want your chromosomes to be decimated, and you certainly don't want your immune system and your overall health to be compromised. So the cost of stress is huge, and one way to reduce the cost of stress is to declutter your life. When you have less stuff to maintain, when you have less items to organize, and when you don't have to deal with the agony of buying items, then you could live a more stress-free lifestyle and spend more time indulgent in nirvana So once again, to recapitulate, in sum, the top 5 hidden costs appertaining to buying stuff encompass the following: the cost of interest from debt finance and the cost of housing items, the cost of insuring items, the opportunity costs of buying items, and the cost of living and clutter. And out of all these, perhaps the biggest issue is the opportunity cost associated with procuring stuff. As you're spending time procuring stuff and collecting and indulging in your fantasies, you're forgoing the opportunity to work and to be a greater asset to the economy. So just be wary of that. I hope that you found this video to be insightful and enthralling. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Goodbye.